She tells him, ooh, love, no one's ever gonna hurt you, love. I'm gonna give you all of my love. Nobody matters like you.
Hey guys, Mosa here, and today I'm bringing you the story of Alex Smith. Now, without further ado, let's get started. Alexander Douglas Smith was born in Bremerton, Washington on May 7th, 1984. Though he actually grew up in La Mesa, California, he also had his father be an executive director at Helix High School, where he attended high school and also played football as well. As a starter at Helix High School, during his junior and senior years, he led his team with a record of 25-1, including 2 San Diego CIF selection championships. He was named first team all-conference and all-country squad in San Francisco CIF system. Also, Smith earned a conference player of the year twice, and twice he won team MVP for Helix High School. During his time at Helix High School, Smith set some records by throwing 6 touchdowns in a single game, a record second highest completion percentage in San Diego CIF history. While at Helix, he also played with the 2005 Heisman Trophy winner, who had to vacate the award, Reggie Bush, and both Smith and Bush were later finalists for the 2004 Heisman Trophy, making it the first time a high school had 2 finalists at the same ceremony. Now, Smith attended the University of Utah, where he played wearing the number 11, which he used during his entire college career and NFL career. He finished 4th in the voting for the Heisman Trophy winner in 2004. He was selected to the 2004 Mountain West Conference Player of the Year. He posted a 21-1 record as a starter in college while leading a high-powered spread offense under head coach Urban Meyer. He led the Utes to victories in the 2003 Liberty Bowl and the 2005 Fiesta Bowl. Now, Alex Smith had earned a bachelor in economics in 2 years with a GPA of 3.74, having matriculated with a 64 credit hours earned before attending college. He began to work on his master's degree before being drafted to the National Football League. Now, in his entire college career, he only played 25 games, had a completion percentage ratio of 66.3, 5,203 yards, 47 touchdowns to 8 interceptions. Now, for a college student, I think that this is decent, as he was starter for only 2 years. And honestly, I think that this was a good start for Alex Smith and definitely deserved to be a first-round pick. But did he deserve to be picked at where he was? Let's talk about that right now. Alex Smith opted out his senior year to go to the NFL, going to the 2005 NFL Draft, where he was drafted first overall by the San Francisco 49ers, which used him in 9 games, 7 of them being starts. He went 2-5 with his starts, and then he went with a 50.9 completion percentage ratio, 875 yards, a touchdown to 11 interceptions, and he got sacked 29 times. Now, honestly, I think that this year for Alex Smith was his worst. It was his worst, and honestly, the 49ers was just not a good team during the first part of Alex Smith's career with the 49ers, as we will explain in 2006 all the way to 2012. Now let's get on to 2006, where he was 22 years old with the 49ers, starting in all of their games and ending the season 7-9. Now, having a 58.1 completion ratio, 2,890 yards, 16 touchdowns to 16 interceptions, and only getting sacked 35 times, it was an improvement, definitely. But it wasn't the improvement San Francisco needed. They still needed help to push their team into a playoff team. But honestly, I think that this team was just not going to go anywhere anyways, as the San Francisco 49ers back in the day was just not as good as the San Francisco 49ers are with Jimmy Garoppolo and how they were with Colin Kaepernick. Now in 2007, his third year in the NFL, He played in 7 games, all of them being starts, 2-5 record again, a 48.7 completion percentage ratio, 914 yards, 2 touchdowns to 4 interceptions, and 17 sacks. Now, I said that his worst year was his first, and it's still true, as this is his second worst year. And honestly, the San Francisco 49ers are just not a good team, and Alex Smith is not on the field as much as he should be. But honestly, I can't blame Alex Smith entirely, as the team around him was just not good anyways in 2007, as well as 2008 and 2009, and even up into 2010. But regardless, I think the San Francisco 49ers did have a decent team in the late part of Alex Smith's career with the 49ers, as they hired Jim Harbaugh in the future. Now, this year, 2008, was a year that Alex Smith would detest, because this year he missed the entire season due to a back injury he suffered against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and JT O'Sullivan was the one to take over as starting quarterback. As we all know, the San Francisco 49ers still weren't a good enough team to do anything even without Alex Smith. So it was clear that even though the 2008 season Alex Smith was injured and he could be a liability, it was still not a liability to just cut Alex Smith or let him go in free agency, as honestly the first overall pick could be useful in the future in a rebuilding stage. And that's what they did with Alex Smith. Now in 2009, the San Francisco 49ers had him play in 11 games, 10 of them being starts, going 5 for 5. This is his first year that he had at least the same amount of wins and losses, and having a 60.5 per completion percentage ratio, 2,350 yards, 18 touchdowns and 12 interceptions, 22 sacks. Now, still, decent year. It was a decent year, and honestly, I think that the San Francisco 49ers are pushing in for a playoff run pretty soon. Even though they're not putting up some good numbers when it comes to wins and losses, I still think that the San Francisco 49ers are still pushing that way. And that's what they did, and they kept on pushing towards a playoff berth to try and get to the Super Bowl. Now in 2010, he had also played 11 games, and only 10 of them being starts, going 3-7. Still horrible. And a 59.6 completion ratio, 2,370 yards, 14 touchdowns, 10 interceptions, and 25 sacks. Yeah, this QB isn't working out for the 49ers. But it's not honestly dead yet, because if I'm not mistaken, the next year was a big year for the San Francisco 49ers and Alex Smith. Now in 2011, Alex Smith played all 16 games, the second time he's ever done so, went 13-3 and made the playoffs, and having a 61.3 completion percentage ratio and a 3,144 yard season, 17 touchdowns to 5 interceptions, and getting sacked the third most in his entire career, 44 sacks. And this year they went to the playoffs, and if I'm not mistaken, they beat the Saints and then they lost to the Giants, who ended up winning the Super Bowl. But regardless, I think that the San Francisco 49ers did what they needed to do. They got the team to make the Super Bowl, and they did so the next year in 2012. Now, in 2012 was a devastating year for Alex Smith, but not the San Francisco 49ers until the end, where he only played in 10 games, 9 of them being starts. He had a 6-2-1 record. And by the way, this is the team led by Alex Smith at the beginning of the year, 70.2 completion percentage ratio, 1,737 yards, 13 touchdowns, 5 interceptions, and 24 sacks. But it all came to an end as the remaining part of the season and the playoffs and even the Super Bowl were played by Nevada quarterback Colin Kaepernick. And honestly, Colin Kaepernick is a very good quarterback in his own regards. And I think that this change definitely changed Alex Smith's career, because before you had quarterbacks that were definitely not going to get rid of Alex Smith. You still needed Alex Smith because he was your best chance of actually beating teams. And honestly, now they don't have that same leverage as before. So in the 2013 offseason, they traded him off. Now in 2013, his first season with the Kansas City Chiefs, he did something that he has never done before up until this point. He made a Pro Bowl. Only playing in 15 games and all of them being starts, 11-4 record, having a 60.6 completion percentage ratio, 3,313 yards, 23 touchdowns and 7 interceptions, 39 sacks. This is the year that he went into the playoffs with the Kansas City Chiefs for the first time ever. And what happened? He got schooled by the Indianapolis Colts in the first round, if I'm not mistaken. And he went to the Pro Bowl. That was interesting because Alex Smith has never gone to the Pro Bowl, even when he did good in his years. But this time he got his first selection. I think it was because Peyton Manning was the one to go to the Pro Bowl. But due to him going to the Super Bowl, he couldn't. So I probably think it's Alex Smith coming up for Peyton Manning due to the fact that he had to attend the Super Bowl. But regardless, Alex Smith did very good this year. And during his entire time with Kansas City, honestly, Kansas City had done well and groomed someone to groom their starter in their future. Now in 2014, they went Kansas City, 15 games again, Alex Smith, 8-7, and did not make the playoffs. 3,265 yards, 18 touchdowns to 6 interceptions, and 45 sacks. Now, honestly, this was a down year for his time in Kansas City, but still, he still did good. He still did good. Even if it was a down year, he still did good. He did decent. He did his job. He did what he needed to do, and he did it precisely how he needed to do it. And honestly, Kansas City was happy about it because the next year, 2015, came along. Now, in 2015, Kansas City had Alex Smith play every single game, all 16, 11-5. He also went to the playoffs, shut out the Houston Texans, but then lost in the divisional round to the New England Patriots. But then he set a record, not only of 11-5, but then his stats went like this: 65.3 completion percentage ratio, 3,486 yards, 20 touchdowns, 7 interceptions, and again 45 sacks. Now this was honestly enough to give him again another alternate, as he was the alternate for Tom Brady due to an injury in 2013. This time, he was going to be an alternate again for, if I'm not mistaken, Tom Brady. But he declined to do so due to the fact that he didn't want to, I guess. But regardless, he was given a chance to be a Pro Bowl alternate, but he turned that down after being defeated by the New England Patriots 27-20. Now in 2016, he was elected to another Pro Bowl. He played 15 games, all of them being starts, 11-4, a 67.1 completion percentage ratio, 3,502 yards, 15 touchdowns to 8 interceptions, and 28 sacks. Now, honestly, what I think of this year is that this year was very good for Alex Smith, but not that good for the Kansas City Chiefs. In this year, he did win the AFC West title. And honestly, I think that even though they won that title, it still didn't help them in the playoffs, as they lost to the Pittsburgh Steelers in the divisional round of the playoffs. And he was ranked again 81st by his fellow peers for the second consecutive year in the NFL Top 100 Players. Now in 2017, he had 15 games played, 9-6. All of them being starts, by the way. Then he went 67.5 completion percentage ratio, 4,042 yards, 26 touchdowns, 5 interceptions, and 35 sacks. Now, this year was not that good for Alex Smith, or better yet, was good statistically, and the fact that he got another Pro Bowl, but not good in the fact that he was going to get replaced after that year, 100%. As the Kansas City Chiefs in 2017 decided to draft Patrick Mahomes II with the 10th overall pick of the 2017 NFL Draft. And that's also the reason why he didn't play the last game, because Patrick Mahomes started it. But regardless, they still won the division. They still made the playoffs. but they lost to the Titans in the wild card round as Mariota did some incredible things after the Kansas City Chiefs just choked away the lead. And honestly, I think that the Kansas City Chiefs made the right decision. As we all know, Patrick Mahomes is a $500 million man, and Alex Smith ended up being the best mentor for him. Now, in 2018, the Kansas City Chiefs decided we're trading away Alex Smith and we're giving him to Washington. He's going to be playing in Washington. He played 10 games, 6-4. Now, he had 62.5 completion percentage ratio with the Washington football team, then Washington Redskins. He had 2,180 yards, 10 touchdowns, and 5 interceptions, and 22 sacks. Now, one of those sacks came to bite Alex Smith in the long run, as Alex Smith actually broke his leg in 2018 on the, I think that was the same day, or saying all these conspiracies about saying, oh, he broke his leg on the same field, on the same day, on the same side of the field, on the same everything, where Joe Theismann in decades ago had actually broken his leg and ended his career, which everyone thought, due to the gruesome injury he actually had during that game against the Houston Texans, that he would never play football again. But Alex Smith proved everyone wrong. Now, Alex Smith in 2019 did not play due to the fact that he had an infection up on top of his injury where he had his broken leg. But honestly, this infection was killing his leg. His leg was like all blackened and all that. But basically, this injury could have taken his entire life away from him. And I don't mean like, oh, football. I mean his life. And he had a few choices: amputation or try to save his leg. He decided try to save his leg. He saved his leg and honestly got back into football after that gruesome injury he suffered in 2018 against the Houston Texans. And honestly, he is a god for doing that. Like, no one, you would never see anyone come back from an injury like that. Alex Smith has proved that you can actually come back from gruesome injuries like that and basically play like nothing ever happened. Now, Alex Smith in the 2020 NFL season, the season of the pandemic, he was 36 years old. He was still playing for the Washington football team, as he only played in 8 games, 6 of them being starts, as 2 of them, I believe, was coming in for the backup, I think, because I think it was Dwayne Haskins who was the quarterback, and then he replaced him, and then he replaced an injured Kyle Allen, I think it was. He went 5-1 with the Washington football team. Imagine that. And by the way, they went to the playoffs as well. He didn't play in the playoffs, but he guided the team to a playoff run. And that was good. That was good. Imagine one more win. He would have been undefeated 6-0. And guess what? That would have been an 8-8 season for the Washington football team. And he had a 66.7 completion percentage ratio, 1,582 yards, 6 touchdowns to 8 interceptions, and 22 sacks. Now, this year was an incredible year for him specifically, because not only has he come back from an injury, but he came back fighting. And honestly, his fighting was so determined that not only did he honestly win the hearts of fans due to his story, but he also won the NFL's Comeback Player of the Year, beating out Ben Roethlisberger, who also had an injury last year that took him out for the entire season. But this is the thing. He was out for about 2 years. Almost 2 years. Or maybe more than 2 years. Who knows? But I think that this injury was the injury that gave him motivation. Of course, he had the back injury in the past. But this injury, showing him that he had to fight for his life, not only to at least keep his leg, but to have the chance to play football again. And he did it. That's why he's Comeback Player of the Year. Well-deserved Alex Smith. Now, in his entire career with the 49ers, he went 80 games, 75 starts, 38, 36, and 1. He had a 59.3 completion percentage ratio, 14,280 yards, 81 touchdowns, and 63 interceptions, with a passer rating of 79.1 and 196 sacks. On average, he had a 59.3 percentage ratio as well. He had 2,040 yards, 11.6 touchdowns, and 0.1 interceptions during his time with the 49ers. And honestly, a 91.1 passer rating, and honestly only getting sacked 28 times, that's his average. And that's decent for a quarterback, honestly. But then he went on to Kansas City. Now with the Kansas City Chiefs, where he played from 2013 to 2017, getting all 3 Pro Bowls that year, he had 76 games, all of them being starts, 50, 26, and 0. Having a 65.1 completion percentage ratio, 17,608 yards, 102 touchdowns, and 33 interceptions, and a 94.8 passer rating and 192 sacks. He definitely improved from this years in San Francisco. And honestly, his average 65.1 completion percentage ratio, 3,522 yards, 20 touchdowns to 7 interceptions, and a 94.2 passer rating and 38 sacks. Honestly, he didn't do that well when it came to sacks, but everything else he had improved during his time. On average, his seasons were very good, but due to the fact that he had to give it up so Alex Smith could go to Washington and Patrick Mahomes could take over for the Chiefs. And honestly, now we go to Washington. Now with the Washington football team, he played for 2 seasons, by the way. One of them he didn't play, the 2019 season. So he played 2018 to 2020, but skipped the 2019 season, where he played 18 games, 16 of them being starts, 11-5 record, a 64.3 completion percentage ratio, 3,762 yards, 16 touchdowns and 13 interceptions, an 82.6 passer rating, and 44 sacks. On average, he had a 64.1 completion percentage ratio, 1,881 yards, 8 touchdowns to 7 interceptions, and an 81.7 passer rating and 22 sacks. Now, when it came to his entire career with the Washington football team, it wasn't good. Honestly, it was like worth like a season maybe for a decent quarterback. But honestly, Alex Smith had to deal with injury. And honestly, when you deal with injury, it's kind of hard to stay on the field. And after spending his NFL career with 3 teams, 14 seasons, basically he had 16 seasons, but 2 of them missed due to injury, he decided to retire from the National Football League. And honestly, well deserved. You did incredible, Alex, and I hope nothing but success in your future endeavors outside of football, and hopefully you live a long, healthy life with your family. Now, that was it for this video. Tell me what you guys think in the comments below about Alex Smith, his entire career, and his retirement from the NFL after 14 seasons. Tell me down in the comments below. Now, like this video if you liked it, subscribe, and hit the notification if you want more videos, and I'll see you guys next time.